At just 19 years old, Barron Trump has finally broken his silence. Addressing the swirling rumors about his mother Melania, Trump for years whispers and speculations about the First Lady's life relationship and role in the Trump family have dominated headlines. Everybody judges you, look at you certain way. So nothing prepared me more for this world. It gives you a thick skin now. Barron steps into the spotlight to set the record straight. What truths has he revealed? And how does he view the media's portrayal of his mother? Buckle up as we dive into this highly anticipated revelation that will leave you speechless. A quiet first lady in the spotlight. Melania Trump has always stood apart from the traditional image of a first lady, largely because of how carefully she has shaped and shielded her public image. Unlike many in her position, Melania rarely speaks in public, avoids press interviews, and often declines to share details about her private life. This veil of mystery has created a kind of silence that invites curiosity and even speculation from the public and the media. One biographer, Mary Jordan, was so intrigued by Melania's secrecy that she resorted to meeting with Trump family associates, in secret just to gather glimpses of who Melania really is. Because Melania herself says so, little people have begun to draw their own conclusions about her. Some see her as a silent sufferer in a high-profile marriage. Others view her as a reluctant immigrant who was forced into fame. Still others think she's a lucky model who stumbled into fortune, or a woman with no voice or influence in her own story. Despite being considered distant and unemotional, by many those who know her personally, often describe her quite differently. They say she's calm, warm, and even nurturing in private settings. This private nature is particularly noticeable when compared to her stepdaughter Ivanka Trump, who is often outgoing and camera-ready. Donald Trump himself sometimes placed Ivanka and Melania side by side, as if they played the same role in his public life, even posing with one on each side. In photographs, Melania's quiet, poised demeanor is in stark contrast to Donald's loud, energetic, and confrontational style. But interestingly, both are said to be loners in their own way, preferring solitude even when surrounded by crowds. First Lady historian Betty Boyd. Carol once compared Melania's low-key role in the White House to that of Bess Truman, another First Lady who kept a low profile and avoided grand initiatives. CNN correspondent Kate Bennett described Melania as one of the most private and guarded First Ladies in modern history. While in the White House, Melania's staff were instructed to avoid answering any media questions, even those relating to her official duties or her whereabouts at one point in 2018, when she hadn't been seen in public for 3 weeks. Some speculated that she had abandoned her First Lady role altogether. The silence only fueled conspiracy theories throughout Donald Trump's presidency. Rumors swirled about Melania's relationship with him. Many suspected that all was not well between them, especially when she didn't move into the White House right away, or when news broke about Donald's alleged affair with adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Moments like the now. Famous video of Melania swatting away Donald's hand, or her solo trip to visit detained children at the U.S. border, only added fuel to the fire. And when she publicly praised LeBron James's charity work just a day after Donald had insulted the basketball star, people began to wonder if she was quietly pushing back. At one point, a widely believed rumor claimed that Melania had moved out of the White House and into a separate house in Potomac, Maryland with her parents. This theory sparked the viral hashtag #FreeMelania, as people online expressed concern that she was trapped in an unhappy situation. Oddly enough, Melania didn't seem offended by the hashtag. She actually found it amusing. Though she disliked being seen as a helpless woman in need of rescue by 2020. Much of the speculation began to quiet down as Melania became more involved in her official duties. Still, one thing continued to catch people's attention. Her serious expression in public, rarely seen smiling. Many took this as a sign of unhappiness, but Melania explained that her expression has more to do with her cultural background in Slovenia, where she was raised. People don't smile. Just for show. I don't believe in fake smiles. She once said a statement that revealed more about her character than many of her official appearances ever did. Chris Christie, a close Trump ally during the 2016 campaign, weighed in on the endless gossip. He dismissed the idea that Melania was secretly miserable or trapped according to him. Melania was simply her own person, strong-willed, independent, and very much in control of her own choices, even if those choices didn't always match public expectations. Melania Trump remains one of the most mysterious first ladies in recent history. Her quiet resistance to public scrutiny, her carefully guarded privacy, and her unwillingness to conform to the typical expectations of her role have made her both puzzling and fascinating. Whether viewed as misunderstood or simply misunderstood by design, Melania continues to be a subject of intrigue, proving that sometimes silence says more than words ever could. One of the things that sparked controversy about Melania was her delayed move to the White House. Although Barron was very young, then his revelations seemed to have confirmed some rumors and corrected others. Let's delve into the reason behind Melania's delayed move during Trump's first administration. Melania Trump's mysterious stay in New York when Donald Trump became President of the United States. In January 2017, most people expected his wife Melania to move into the White House right away. But instead of joining her husband in Washington, the new First Lady stayed behind in New York City at the time. The official reason given was that their young son, Barron, needed to finish the school year. But according to a revealing new book by Mary Jordan, a respected journalist with the Washington Post, there was much more to the story than met the eye. The book suggests that Melania's extended stay in Manhattan wasn't just about school schedules. It was about personal power and emotional distance. Behind the polished public image, Melania was reportedly upset and needed time to cool off. She used that time, the author claims to her advantage, to renegotiate her prenup agreement with Donald Trump. This agreement, signed before they got married, outlined what she would receive in the event of a divorce or Donald's death by waiting before moving into the White House. Melania was in a strong position to ask for better terms. She wanted to make sure her son Barron was well taken care of financially, and she believed this was the right moment to secure that. In private, she even referred to this move as taking care of Barron according to the book. But money wasn't the only issue bothering Melania. Around that same time, she was dealing with emotional pain caused by disturbing news in the media during the final stretch of the 2016 presidential campaign. A video surfaced that shocked the world. In it, Donald Trump was heard boasting in crude and offensive language about how he treated women, including kissing and touching them without permission. The recording from a 2005 episode of Access Hollywood created a firestorm of controversy. Eventually, Melania did move into the White House. 5 months after her husband had settled in her arrival was quiet, but her presence made a statement she had taken her time, and according to the book, had done so with a clear purpose. Of course, not everyone agrees with this version of events, apart from Barron, a spokesperson for Melania. Stephanie Grisham, who was also her chief of staff, also strongly denied the claims made in Jordan's book. In a firm response, Grisham dismissed the book as pure fiction, accusing it of spreading lies and using unreliable sources. Yet another book about Mrs. Trump with false information and sources. This book belongs in the fiction genre, she said. Despite the denial, the story sparked public interest. It painted a more complex picture of Melania Trump, not just as a glamorous first lady, but as a woman who had quietly but firmly stood her ground during one of the most turbulent periods of her life. It suggested she was far more strategic and self-aware than many had assumed this. Fresh perspective raised questions about what really goes on behind the closed doors of political power. Was Melania's silence? Strength in disguise did. Her quiet delay in moving to Washington speak louder than words, whether readers believe the book's account or not. It adds an intriguing layer to Melania's already mysterious persona. In the end, one thing is clear. Her journey to the White House wasn't just about politics or parenting. It was also about power dignity and knowing when to act and when to wait to know Melania Trump better. Let's take a brief dive into her journey in life. Melania's journey, Melania Trump born Melania Naves on April 26, 1970 in what was then Yugoslavia, now Slovenia, has lived a life filled with dramatic transformations, international travel, and a unique place in American history, beginning as a teenage fashion model in a small town. She eventually rose to one of the most watched positions in the world. First Lady of the United States, not once, but twice. She is married to Donald J. Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States. When she first stepped into the role of First Lady, in 2017, she became the first naturalized U.S. citizen to ever hold the title. She also became only the second foreign-born First Lady in American history after Louisa Adams, the wife of President John Quincy Adams. On top of that, Melania is just the second Roman Catholic First Lady, following in the footsteps of the graceful Jacqueline Kennedy. And in a twist that history books will long remember, she became the second woman ever to serve as First Lady during 2 non-consecutive terms. The first being Frances Cleveland, wife of President Grover. Cleveland Melania's journey to the White House began in the picturesque town of Sevnica, Slovenia. At just 16, she was already posing in front of cameras as a fashion model. She later changed the spelling of her name to Melania Kuna, aiming for an international appeal as she pursued work in European fashion hubs like Paris and Milan. Her big break came when she met Paolo Zampoli, a businessman with connections in both modeling and real estate. He offered her work and sponsored her move to the United States in 1996. Arriving in New York City, Melania continued her modeling career and quickly became a part of Manhattan's elite social scene. In 1998, she met the larger-than-life real estate mogul, Donald Trump, at a party hosted by Zampoli. They began dating shortly afterward. Trump, already a public figure, helped her land more modeling opportunities, and Melania supported his brief attempt at running for president in the year 2000. The couple got married in a lavish ceremony in 2005, with celebrities and dignitaries in attendance. The following year, they welcomed their son, Barron William Trump. Melania chose to step back from the public spotlight during Barron's early years, focusing more on raising him than making appearances or continuing her career. In 2009, she launched a jewelry line, Melania TM, adding entrepreneur to her resume in the final weeks of the 2016 presidential campaign, when a damaging video of Donald Trump's past crude comments about women emerged. Melania defended him publicly, though it placed her in an uncomfortable position when Trump won the presidency. Melania didn't immediately move to Washington, D.C. She chose to stay in New York a few more months so that Barron could finish his school year. During this time, she reportedly renegotiated her prenup agreement. Meanwhile, Trump's daughter Ivanka stepped into some of the First Lady's roles once she did move to the White House. Melania maintained a low profile. Unlike previous First Ladies, she held fewer events and often stayed in the residential part of the building rather than working out of her East Wing office in 218. Her personal life drew media attention. Once again, there were rumors of her husband's alleged affairs, a major surgery for a kidney condition, and a trip to Africa that made headlines more for her wardrobe choices than her outreach efforts. Despite all this, Melania did pursue a cause close to her heart: children's welfare. She launched the Be Best initiative, which focused on children's health safety online and the fight against cyberbullying. She also visited numerous hospitals and advocated for families. She was an influential voice behind some of her husband's major decisions, including ending the policy that separated migrant children from their families at the border and banning fruit-flavored vaping products. But in a historic twist, Melania returned to the national stage when Donald Trump was re-elected president in 2024, making her the First Lady once again in 2025. A rare and unprecedented return to a role she once quietly occupied, from small-town Slovenia to the global spotlight of the White House. Twice. Melania Trump's story is one of transformation, controversy, and quiet influence in a world that rarely allows silence. How did she cross paths with Donald Trump? Let's delve into the details of her love story and family dynamics. Melania and Donald's love story. It all began on a September night in 1998. At a lively New York City party, Melania Aknau, a poised and striking model, originally from Slovenia, was introduced to Donald Trump, the wealthy and famous real estate mogul, through a mutual friend, Italian businessman Paolo Zampoli. At the time, Donald had arrived at the event with another woman. But the moment he laid eyes on Melania, he was captivated, not one to waste time. Donald asked Melania for her phone number, but she wasn't impressed by the flashy charm. Instead of handing over her number, she flipped the script and told him to give her his. A clever move to test if he was really interested or just flirting for fun. Surprisingly, Donald didn't hesitate. He offered not just one number, but several ways to reach him: his office home, and even his personal line. A week later, Melania called him. From that moment, their unique and sometimes unpredictable love story began. Melania's quiet confidence, reserved nature, and mysterious charm fascinated Donald. She wasn't loud or dramatic. Instead, she carried herself with a calm elegance that kept him intrigued. Their relationship wasn't always smooth, though at one point they briefly broke up after Melania saw Donald's ex-girlfriend model, Cara Young, at Trump Tower. But the distance didn't last long. They soon patched things up and continued seeing each other. Being with Donald brought Melania more exposure in the fashion world. She got more modeling gigs, and by 1999, she became one of the first models signed to Donald's new venture, Trump Model Management. Around this time, she also posed for some bold photo shoots, including a controversial spread for GQ magazine, where she posed on Trump's private jet. While these photos raised eyebrows, they also pushed Melania further into the public eye. Though critics questioned her choices, Melania stood by her work and later defended her modeling career. With pride, their relationship had another hiccup in early 2000, and the two split up, again for a few months, but they couldn't stay apart for long. By the end of the year, they were back together, stronger than before. In 2001, Melania officially became a permanent resident of the United States, soon after she and Donald moved in together at the luxurious Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue. Then in 2004 came the grand romantic gesture on Melania's birthday, just before the glamorous Met Gala. Donald proposed with a dazzling diamond ring. Melania said yes before the wedding. She signed a prenuptial agreement, and for her dress, she chose a show-stopping Dior gown designed by John Galliano. The dress was so iconic, it landed her on the cover of Vogue magazine. Their wedding took place in January 2005 at a church in Florida, followed by a lavish celebration at Mar-a-Lago. The guest list included celebrities, politicians, and big names from around the world. Melania's sister stood proudly by her side as a bridesmaid after marrying Donald. Melania settled into a quieter lifestyle. She preferred her privacy and even had a spa built inside Trump Tower, her personal escape from the bustling world outside. Though she and Donald had very different personalities, she didn't try to change him. She didn't pressure him to learn Slovenian or expect constant emotional connection. Their relationship had a practical rhythm, but it was clear she truly cared for him. Melania also embraced her role as stepmother to Donald's 4 children and developed a particularly close bond with Tiffany, Donald's daughter, with Marla Maples. In 2006, Melania gave birth to their son, Barron William Trump. She embraced motherhood wholeheartedly. Unlike many celebrities, she rarely used nannies and stayed deeply involved in Barron's life, choosing to step back from public appearances to focus on raising him. Donald wasn't very hands-on as a father, but Melania seemed to accept and adjust to that reality. That same year, Melania became a U.S. citizen. She also helped her parents begin the process of joining her in America, though she kept a low profile. Melania launched a jewelry line, and later a skincare brand called Melania. Her skincare business faced legal hurdles, but she fought back and won through it all. Melania managed to juggle many roles: immigrant model mother, entrepreneur and wife to one of the most talked about men in America, all while maintaining a firm grip on her privacy. Elegance and quiet strength. For someone who was into modeling, to rise into such prestigious position, one cannot but wonder how she got so lucky. Let's dig into the details of Milena's career path. Milena's career path to America. Milena's journey into the world of modeling began quite unexpectedly at just 16 years old. She was spotted by a Slovenian fashion photographer named Stane Jerko. He noticed her after a school fashion show and was struck by her striking looks and graceful presence. Interestingly, at that point in her life, Melania wasn't dreaming of catwalks or magazine covers. She actually wanted to become a fashion designer, not a model. Soon after, Melania's unique appearance began turning heads in the modeling world. She entered a modeling contest organized by the famous Italian film studio Cinecittà, and she won the prize, a role in a movie. But there was a dark side to the offer when one of the producers made an inappropriate sexual advance toward her. Melania showed courage and values. Beyond her years, she turned down the role, walking away from what many might have seen as a golden opportunity as her modeling career slowly took off. She began using a more international version of her name, Melania Naus. She started traveling across Europe, chasing modeling gigs, and trying to build a name for herself. It wasn't an easy road. She often worked far away from her home country, Slovenia, and except for a few close family members, she gradually lost contact with her old life there. In 1992, her rising star got a bit brighter when she was named runner-up in the Jana magazine. Look of the Year competition. This contest was highly respected in Slovenia. and being one of the top 3 meant a shot at an international modeling contract. She went on to sign with RVR Reclaim, a Milan-based agency, but her stay there was brief after just a few months. She moved on, continuing her search for the right fit throughout the early 90s. Melania bounced around Europe, taking on various modeling jobs. One particularly interesting assignment had her play the role of the first female US president in a 1993 fashion concept shoot, a striking image given what the future would eventually hold for her. Around the age of 23 or 24, she settled for a while in Paris, where she lived with another aspiring model, Victoria Silvstedt. Melania worked for fashion houses in both Paris and Milan. And it was during this time that a major turning point happened. In 1995, she met Paolo Zampoli, a well-connected co-owner of Metropolitan Models who was on a talent scouting trip through Europe. Zampoli was no ordinary scout. He was also a friend of Donald Trump, the man who would later become Melania's husband. Zampoli saw something special in Melania and urged her to take a bold leap move to New York by 1996. Melania followed that advice and relocated to Manhattan at 26. She was older than most newcomers in the modeling world, where youth often dominates. But she was determined Zampoli set her up with an apartment in Union Square's Zeckendorf Towers, which she shared with a photographer named Matthew Atanian. Her rent was paid out of her modeling earnings, a common practice in the industry. New York offered her fresh chances and new exposure. Though she occasionally returned to Slovenia, she mostly stayed in the US. She lived with discipline, avoiding the wild party life that many models were known for. Instead, Melania maintained a healthy lifestyle, watching what she ate, and rarely drank or went out. She kept to herself, stayed focused, and didn't chase the spotlight unnecessarily. In 1997, Melania took part in a provocative photo shoot for Max, a French men's magazine. The shoot, which featured her with another female model, was meant to give her exposure. Though it was unpaid, the photos faded into obscurity until they resurfaced nearly 2 decades later. During the US presidential campaign making headlines in 2016. During her first weeks in America, Melania wasn't legally allowed to work due to her visa. However, she still took on 10 modeling jobs that brought in around $20. Though quite a sum. Especially considering her visa restrictions later, she obtained an H-1B visa, allowing her to work officially. Her first big break in the US came when she was cast in an ad campaign for Camel cigarettes. The gig was unusual in that US laws required all cigarette advertisements to use models aged 25 and above. And Melania, already 26, fit the bill perfectly. The shoot captured by famed photographer Ellen von Unwerth LED, to her image being displayed on a massive Times Square billboard, and even featured in Rolling Stone magazine with her presence in the White House, which marks a significant moment in lives of the Trump family. Speculations and rumors continue to hover around Melania. Let's take a delve into a number of revelations, possibly from Barron, about the White House chapter in Melania's life. The White House chapter. Just one day after Donald Trump's dramatic win on election night, Melania Trump broke her usual silence and made a public statement. On social media, her message was short, yet powerful, and offered a glimpse into how she might carry herself in her second round as First Lady. The majority of Americans have entrusted us with this important responsibility, she wrote. We will safeguard the heart of the Republic freedom. She ended by calling on Americans to set aside political differences and come together for the good of the country. Back then, her quiet presence and hesitation to follow in the footsteps of past First Ladies sparked conversations. She rarely made public speeches and seemed to keep a measured distance from the political stage. But things may be different this time. Experts suggest that Melania Trump now 54 may be preparing to reshape the public's expectations of a First Lady once more, but with more intention born Melania Aknov's in Slovenia. She carved out a life in the spotlight, long before politics, building a career as a fashion model and living luxuriously in Manhattan's Trump Tower. But when her husband won the presidency, she traded in that glamorous lifestyle for the often chaotic and controversial world of American politics, described by some as mysterious and hard to read. Melania has always set herself apart from other first ladies. She's not one for grand speeches or constant media appearances. According to Tammy Vigil, a communications professor, and author of a book comparing Michelle Obama and Melania Trump, she does things the way she wants to do them, not the way people expect her to. Even so, Vigil notes that Melania still fulfills the basic public duties expected of someone in her position in recent years. As her husband battled a series of legal challenges while campaigning for a second term, Melania largely stayed out of sight. Her noticeable absence stirred public curiosity, and even headlines asking, "Where is Melania?" But she wasn't completely invisible. She showed up at key moments, like when Trump announced his 2024 campaign and at high-profile events, such as the Republican National Convention, where she appeared in a striking red Dior suit. Yet, true to form, she didn't give a speech breaking with tradition, once again when she does speak. Her words are often few, but carefully chosen enough to reveal her thoughts without giving too much away at a campaign rally at Madison Square Garden. Just weeks before the election, she echoed the campaign's tough-on-crime stance, describing New York City as a once great place now plagued by lawlessness. After the shocking assassination attempt on her husband, she gave a rare and emotional statement calling for unity and condemning the attacker as a monster. Later, in an interview with Fox News, she blamed the media and political enemies for creating a dangerous and toxic atmosphere. Melania Trump has also stirred attention with her personal views, some of which don't neatly align with her party. In her memoir, she expressed support for a woman's right to choose a bold move in a Republican Party that remains divided on the issue after the overturning of Roe v. Wade. While the timing of her remarks raised eyebrows, they also highlighted the complexity of her public and private persona. Her book offers glimpses into her life, her modeling days, her admiration for her husband, and even moments of political disagreement, though she chooses to keep many details private. Still, she stood firmly by Trump, including his controversial claim that the 2020 election was rigged. "I am not the only one who questions the results," she wrote, on the violent events of January 6th too, or 21. Melania said she was unaware of what was happening at the Capitol because she was focused on her official duties. Yet her then press secretary Stephanie Grisham claimed in her own memoir that Melania refused to publicly denounce the violence. A decision that led Grisham to resign. Some observers have wondered whether Melania ever truly enjoyed being First Lady. Yet her biographer, Kate Bennett, insists that despite her quiet demeanor, Melania did appreciate the role she liked, all the perks of being First Lady and living in the White House. Bennett told People magazine, in her own words, Melania says she feels a deep responsibility to use the platform for good, as she steps back into the role Americans will be watching to see how this famously private woman navigates the very public stage of history. Once again, what do you think about Melania Trump? The rumors about her and Barron's revelation? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe